Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today with this YouTube. I'm going to do this lovely autumn set, so all in acrylic as requested. So I'm going to start with the split nail. So I've taken a mustard colour. I'll show the colours off later on in the video. Mustard colour, take a small amount and drag that down. So when you do it like this, you want to make this nice and thin. Think of it as a design sandwich because you're going to cap the whole thing in clear. So take it nice and thin. These powders are very pigmented, so you can use it almost like a paint. So I'm going to take it from the top left down to the bottom right and blend it away. So I'm going to take a small bead again now of the darker colour, so this is like a warm brown colour, and place it on there. I'm using the point of my brush to really just pat it into place and then drag it. Again, it's very pigmented, so drag it down and use it almost like a paint. Keep your brush really clean in between pats. If it feels like it's getting clogged up, then just give it a little wipe. So where that colour meets that from the top left down to the bottom right, I'm just going to blur that and smudge that and blend that away so there's no thickness there. While that powder's wet, I'm just going to take some flakes, any flakes or glitter, whatever you want to do, and just cover that line there so you can't see where one colour goes into the other, and it makes a really nice nail. If your first colour has gone matte and it's completely dried, then just wet it with your brush and that'll be enough to stick the flakes. If you're using a glitter, then take a very small, tiny amount of clear and just use that like a glue and just run that along your set top colour. This little annoying pesky little bit there were too big, so I took that off and swapped it for some little ones. It just would not lay flat. So blend all your glitters, pigments, flakes, whatever you want to put there, blend them until they're nice and flat and nice and smooth and just flow really lovely. No harsh lines. When you're happy with that design, just seal the whole thing and encapsulate it in clear powder with fresh monomer, and that's that nail done. Next up is the French. So first up is my brush, my dap and dish, my monomer. The brush, I train my brush to be quite flat, so you'll see that from the side. I'm using a number 10, and when I pop it in my monomer, I push it right down to get all the bubbles out, and it trains my brush to stay flat as well, really. When I drain it on the side, drain it on the flat side. Training your brush this way is really important when you're doing Frenches or anything with any precision, so I keep it really flat. Picking up the bead also is quite important when you're doing a French, so make sure your powder's smooth on the surface, and I just tap it so it keeps that kind of pearl bead ball shape, because that's really important. I work quite dry, so there's always little bits of powder still in my bead, because by the time I press that out, the liquid that's still in my brush in the belly is going to press into that bead. I drain the liquid out the back of my bead also, so that I've got that consistency and colour, so I don't get any rippling. It can be helpful when you're first doing Frenches or you're looking to improve your Frenches to give yourself little markers. So the little sides of my smile I'm just marking out with a pencil, ignore that line, I'll get rid of that in a sec. And a little tiny marker for my smile line. Don't do it in pen because it'll run into your colour. Okay, so just get rid of that little smudge. This is where training my brush to be flat really comes in handy. I'm going to keep my nail tilted down, and I'm going to, can you see, I'm going to press it and bring it down from a bit behind where I want the smile line to be, so gravity can pull that down. I'm not working with a really runny bead, I'm working with quite a dry bead, so it's going to go exactly where I want it to go. So place your bead on and press it down. So picking the bead up the way I did really helps this bit. So I'm going to use the front of my brush, so the tip of my brush, and that's going to be further down than the back of my brush, so I'm not squashing out my smile line with the back of my brush. So you're not really going to touch that yet, you want that to stay quite high. So you can see from this angle, the point of my brush is further forward than I need it, and at an angle where I can smooth out the back of it but leave the front, if that makes sense. So I'm gently going to push side to side just to make sure it's equal, and I'm roughly going to get it in place and then move it down towards where I want my smile line to be. Can you see? So I work fairly dry for this reason really with the French. One, I can get the sort of consistency that I want and the colour will stay true bead to bead. And two, I can really mould it and manipulate it and push it where I want it to go. I am going to use a file to sort of crisp up this smile line, but I don't really need to. So use the sides of your brush to really push that product and really crisp it up. So you're looking for those little markers that you made before, or even if you've not made a mark, look for some reference points on an actual nail. You're looking for those to be really tucked in. So from the side you can see that it's coming up nicely to where my smile line is. So that smile line needs to be nice and crisp. Okay, so really push your brush and your product till you're really happy with it. Again, working with a drier product and waiting, really making sure it gets that consistency that it's not too runny, that you can tuck the sides in, you can move it and manipulate it where you want to go, really does help. So I spend a bit of time now, you could leave it at that and just file it, but I spend a bit of time now really pushing that wall, really getting that wall to be quite crisp and neat, and making sure my sides are tucked in and neat and tidy. So the less filing I have to do, the better really. As your product starts setting, this will get easier and easier, so you can really push it in. Okay, so from the side you can see we've got that gradual rise from where I press the bead out of the back up to the wall at the smile line. Because I've blended the back of this bead out really well, the next bead, my cuticle bead or my back bead, is going to overlap that lovely. So do that as you normally would. So I'm picking up a fairly big size bead because it needs to fill that whole space there from the cuticle line to the smile line and give me my apex, my structure and everything else. I'm going to drain the bead out when I do this as well. So if I've drained the bead in the first bead, I'm going to also do the same on the second bead, so the colour is consistent all the way through and I don't get any ripples or shadowing. Pat, press, nudge, get it nice and neat. Again, working slightly drier helps me with this. That's not the right way to do it, it's just the way I do it, it's always worked for me. I like to do very little movement. I like the bead to do the work really. So doing it this way, I've not actually touched the apex area or done anything with it, I've just pushed it and patted it into place. Absolutely no clue what I was demoing here. I think when I was doing the video, I was like, oh, I'm going to go down the middle with my brush. That's going to show them this, that and other. Not a clue. So make sure you've got all your corners pushed in. You want to make sure you don't get them hippie bits at the side. So you can see my apex from there. I've hardly touched the bead at the back. I know it's going to file out nice. It's going to give me a nice crisp smile line because I've got a wall there and the apex is going to be in the right place. Once it's dry completely, tap it to make sure, then get your file at 90-degree angle and give that a really crisp like file up. Really get that nice and sharp and crisp. Take the point of your file and get right into the ears. So if you're not sure if you've got crispy bits, or if when you're doing your smile lines are a bit smudgy or a bit soft where you add your colour, then this is the most important bit. Get your file right into those edges. Okay, and make sure it's at 90 degrees all the way around, and look at the dust. The dust will show you what your smile line is going to look like. So I'm just going to complete my design now. I'm just going to do a quick and easy coloured acrylic. So I've got walnut, one of our coloured powders, a dark brown with a slight shimmer in it. And then I've got Madrid, which is a pearly, rusty kind of colour. And I'm just going to place them on the nail. So I'm going to use the darker colour first. I'm going to put it on backwards because then I can really use that bead to squash down. And tuck that up the sides and get that really pushed in. So this is where, if you've really crisped up your sides of your smile with your brush and your file, oh, that rhymed, then you can really tuck your colour in. Take your time, work one side to the other side to the other side, so you're not completely finishing one side first, and tuck that right in. Blend that away once you're happy, and I'm going to add the second colour and blend that into it. Then I'm just going to pop some flakes on here just to break it up, and then when you're happy, cap it all in clear. You can see here how much clear you need. It's only a small amount, just to fill that gap from your smile line down to your free edge. On to my next nail. I'm going to do a marble with this one. So with 3 colours, I'm going to use Corn Dog or Mustard Yellow, which is really pigmented. I'm also going to use the 2 previous colours, Madrid and Walnut. To start my marble, I'm going to do a tiny little professional cheat. So I'm going to pick up all 3 colours but the tiniest scrap of a bead, and I'm going to place this at my cuticle line, and I'm going to blend this away. So I'm going to almost paint my cuticle line in, get that nice and neat and tidy, and make this really, really smooth and thin. Take off any excess and blend that away. Okay, it doesn't matter what it looks like. The reason I do this, you can see from the side it's super thin. The reason I do this is when you're blending your marble and you're mixing your colours together, it can be really hard to control where they go. So to try and marble at the same time in acrylic and do your cuticle line can be quite tricky. So I'm going to take a small wet bead of my first colour, then my second colour and third colour, and place them on top of each other, and I'm going to go straight in. This is where having a brush that's trained flat really, really helps as well. So I'm going to keep my brush quite upright, and I'm going to just roughly drag through from one side to the other. Okay, you don't want it to go too long down the nail. I've got a bit too long on this. You want it to go more across, but don't mix it, just drag through. Make sure you drag from one side to the other. Okay, and if you've not got enough to go down the whole nail, that's absolutely fine. Just repeat the process on the bottom. So I'm going to take another bead, place it just underneath there, and the next, and repeat the process. All I need to do then is just check that my edges are not too chunky on the side and any bits haven't come over. And then once you're happy with that, you can add glitter if you want to, flakes, you can do whatever you want really, or add extra little bits of colour wherever you need it. Once you've finished that, encapsulate the whole thing in clear powder. The last demo in this set is an ombre, so I've chosen a really tricky colour to ombre, which is corn dog. It's a mustard. Because it's so bright and it's so bold and pigmented, it can be really tricky to get a lighter cover colour to go over it. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I do when I'm ombreing anything dark, or a dark gel polish, or a black acrylic, for example. So first off, I'm going to just use this like a paint, a small amount, and drag that colour down. Then I will blend away that join line from my base nail to my colour, and I'm just going to use a slightly damp brush, not wet runny, but slightly damp, to just blur that line. Keep it nice and thin and just smooth out any bumps. So you want that to blur away. It doesn't have to be perfect, just blurred and smudgy. I'm going to wait for that to go a little bit matte now so that my colours don't mush into each other. So I'm using quite a light colour really for a core powder. It's opaque, but it's not mega opaque. So I'm going to drain the liquid out of the brush really well. You see, so I've taken a small bead. It doesn't have to be a big bead, it needs to be quite small. And I'm going to use that over that blur line there and smudge out that a little bit more. And basically it's just going to camouflage that a little bit. The reason I need to use a small bead here is because I don't want it to add any thickness, because I'm going to then go over with my ombre bead. And this just helps to blank out the colour so that when you ombre over the top of it, the colour underneath is easier to cover. This bead, I'm just going to pick up a normal bead and ombre it. I'm going to start at the cuticle line-ish and then move it down. I'm draining the liquid out the back of the bead so it intensifies the colour and it's a little bit easier to handle and manipulate. I did use quite a big bead on this, which I wouldn't normally do, but it was on, so I just had to run with it. So I'd normally use a slightly smaller bead than this. So I'm just going to get it to my cuticle line, and then as it starts setting, drag that whole thing down. Like I said, I would prefer a smaller bead because then I can control it that bit more, but I did all right. So once you're happy with that, drag that down. If you drag this with a really wet bead, you're going to get lots of streaks in it. So let it set a little bit and then squash and pat and move that down, and there you've got your ombre. What I would do then is any bits that need the structure adjusting, or like I said, if it was a bit thinner like I normally would do, I'd cap that in clear, encapsulate the ombre so you're going to protect the blend and just correct the shape. So it's top coat time. I really enjoyed doing these. It's nice to work with acrylic. I've not done that in quite some time. So nice, really bold autumn colours and a simple design. Please like, comment, subscribe. Any interaction is really appreciated. If this helped you out in any way, shape or form, please do let me know. We've got a support group over on Facebook that's packed full of all sorts of tips, tricks and everything in between. It's really helpful and really friendly. So give me a shout if you need anything, and if you've got any other suggestions for videos, please do let me know and I'll do my best to feature them. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.